What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today we'll be taking a look at my current list for Weezing Coco spread. So Weezing is new from Unbroken Bonds. I think the card's really cool. It's reminiscent of some older cards, and I'm always a fan of damage spread. So we're playing 4/4 Weezing. The coughing has foul odor. Both active Pokemon are now confused. Not really too relevant. Weezing, 120 HP, Psychic type. Its ability, Detention Gas. As long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's basic Pokemon between turns. So there is a stipulation there, they have to be basic, but there are a lot of decks in the current meta, and well, this meta is evolving, but we can assume that there will continue to be a lot of basic Pokemon decks in the meta. We have Zapdos, Pikarom, Blacephalon and Baby Blacephalon, Reshizard, Guardian, Buzzmosa, and there are definitely more, but just a lot of non-evolution decks that this will be effective against. And even some of the evolution decks still have basic attackers like Malamar. They still have the Tinas and the Necrozma, the Dawnwings, Lele's and Marshadows on their bench. So there are plenty of basic Pokemon around for Detention Gas to hit. And then its attack, Splattering Sludge for a DCE or Counter Energy, since those are the 2 energy we're playing. It does 40 to the active and then 20 to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon that have any damage counters already. So it's kind of like a Flying Flip that needs damage already on the bench, but it does extra damage to the active. And you also have the Detention Gas as bonus damage. Since you attacked with Weezing, that means Detention Gas will be in effect. Since Weezing was active, you attacked with them, right? So Detention Gas can be used after you attack with Weezing. It could also be used if your Pokemon was knocked out and you send up Weezing in its replacement. Then Detention Gas goes off between turns. We aren't using any hit and run type Pokemon like Hitmonchan, but that could also be an option, like swing with something different than send up Weezing in its place. But yeah, I think Detention Gas is really cool. It goes well with its attack, Splattering Sludge, and we have a fair amount of stuff into the standard format to pair with Weezing. One of those things being Spell Tag, so why not just use Flying Flip for 20 and 20? It's only 20 less damage. Well, like I said, we have the Detention Gas ability that's adding a possibility of 6 extra damage counters in between each turn. But then we also have Spell Tag that only works on Psychic Pokemon. When the Psychic Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, put 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. So this is pretty huge. If 4 Weezings get knocked out and they all have Spell Tag, that's 16 extra damage counters placed around your opponent's board. So that's pretty substantial. And then our next Pokemon, we have Tapu Koko as Weezing's partner in crime. The Flying Flip attack is just still good. I think it will be good until it rotates out, which is actually not too far away, sadly. But Flying Flip, this attack does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Plain and simple. You can use DCE or Counter Energy for that. This is going to be what you attack with if you're going second on your first turn. It's also a great pivoter since it has free retreat. And if you're struggling to set up your Weezings at any point in the game, these are basic Pokemon. They don't have to evolve, so you can just get some Flying Flips off in the interim. But Weezing is your preferred attacker. Usually, as long as there's damage on the bench and whatnot. Next, for attackers, we have Larvitar. So basic Pokemon, 60 HP, fighting type. It has Second Strike. So for 2 colorless, 10 damage. If your opponent's active already has 3 or more damage counters on it, this attack does 70 more. So that's 80 for a DCE or counter. It's 160 if you're swinging into a fighting weak Pokemon like Pikarom, so that's where this is relevant, but it can also just be a burst of 80 damage to the active if you need it. We are playing 1 Let Loose since we're already playing 4 Treasure. We don't want GX Pokemon on our bench if we can help it, so Let Loose is a good option. We should not ever be using Shadow Punch, so yeah, you're just going to be sticking to Let Loose. We have Tapu Lele Magical Swap as a potential win condition. Move any number of damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon to their other Pokemon in any way you like. Let me just lower this music a bit. There we go. Sorry about that. So yeah, Magical Swap. You can move their damage counters around any way you like. You can only use Magical Swap in this deck when Counter Energy is live. So make sure you don't go down to one prize, because then you can never use Counter Energy. Since we are not running Rainbow or Psychic Energy in this deck. So after a game of just spreading a lot with Wheezing and Shrine and Coco and whatnot, you can Magical Swap and put the damage where it needs to go. Lastly, we have one Ditto Prism, which can evolve into anything, and then we have one Alolan Muck that shuts off all basic Pokemon's abilities. This is namely for the new Mew out of Unbroken Bonds, which stops bench damage. It has the bench barrier ability, prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon by your opponent's attacks. So this would not stop Spell Tag, it would not stop Detention Gas, it wouldn't stop Magical Swap or Shrine of Punishments, but it does stop the Flying Flip and the initial Splattering Sludge damage. So we want to shut that off if possible with Alolan Muck. Some options you can have for this deck that I do not currently have included. The Mr. Mime with Scoop Up Block. Your opponent's Pokemon that have any damage counters on them and any cards attached to those Pokemon can't be put into your opponent's hand. So this stops Acerola pretty much in the standard format. It also stops some fringe things like the Magierna that picks up tool cards, since it's your opponent's Pokemon and the cards attached to them can be put into your opponent's hand. So if there are some matchups that are running Acerola, if Acerola becomes popular in any certain archetypes, then potentially we put Scoop Up Block Mime in and maybe take out the Alolan Muck and the Ditto, and if we come across a Mew, we just use him or Counter Catcher it. At the moment, I think the Mew with Bench Barrier is a larger threat than Acerola's, so that's why I have the Alolan Muck and Ditto in over the Mr. Mime. But I can definitely see Scoop Up Block being useful eventually. Just some other counter energy attackers that are possible inclusions. The Shaman with Rally Back to do 120, and if they're weak to Grass, that's really good. And also the Keldeo I've seen some consideration of. Resolute Blade. This attack does 20 more damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So if they have a full bench, that's 120, and it's still not knocking out a Reshizard, so I don't think that's good enough, honestly. So I don't have that in here, and I don't see myself including it. If you're not running Alolan Muck, you could run an Absol with Dark Ambition to make opposing Jirachis not be able to retreat for free with a Skateboard. Excuse me. And those are my current considerations for Pokemon to add in. Onto the trainers, we've got 2 Counter Catcher. Since we're usually going to be falling behind, we can hopefully stick a Pokemon up with a larger treat cost and spread some damage while it's stuck up there in the interim. We have 1 Energy Lotto, since we're only playing 8 energy, 4 DCE, 4 counter energy, and we want to be able to find those when we need them. So Energy Lotto is like a 9th out. We're playing 1 Escape Rope and 1 Switch, because if you start with, let's say, Larvitar or Coughing, and you want to attack with Tapu Koko turn 1, hitting into a Escape Rope or Switch off of your Lily can potentially make that happen. Or actually, another note for the Escape Rope and Switch, if something gets knocked out and you send up Wheezing, but you actually want to attack with Larvitar or Koko or Tapu Lele, you can switch out of it with the Switch or Escape Rope and then into your new attacker. So you get off the Detention Gas in between turns, but then you can switch into something different. 4 Mysterious Treasure and 4 Nest Ball. Since a lot of our Pokemon are Psychic, Coughing, Wheezing, Marshadow, Tapu Lele, Alolan Muck. And then we have Nest Ball for the Ditto, Larvitar, Tapu Koko, Coughing, and Tapu Lele. The only things that we can't search are nothing. We can search everything with one of these cards or both of these cards. We don't have Ultra Ball because Mysterious Treasure can search for the Wheezing, the Muck, and the Marsh Shadow, which are the only things we would be Ultra Balling for instead of Nest Ball. So 8-ball search. Then we have 4 Pokegear 3.0. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You may reveal a supporter card you find there and put it into your hand. So we're playing 4 Cynthia, 4 Lily, and then 4 Pokegear. So it's essentially 4 extra outs to a potential draw supporter. I didn't really like any other draw supporter choices we had, so I wanted to go with the Pokegear engine off of 4 Cynthia, 4 Lily. We have 1 Stretcher, could potentially be 2, but just be careful with your resources and you shouldn't need a second. 3 Shrine of Punishment to get extra damage in, that's very important versus any GX deck. 2 is a consideration, but since we have a lot of larger HP Pokemon like Buzzwole, Pheromosa, and Gardevoir Sylveon, and Reshiram Charizard, I think it's cool to have 3. That's a lot of extra damage you can potentially get onto the board. We have 2 Guzma in addition to the 2 Counter Catcher, and like I said, the 4 Lily, 4 Cynthia, and finishing off the trainers, we have the 4 Spell Tag, which I also mentioned earlier. And for our 8 energy, we have 4 DCE and 4 Counter Energy, which means that we can use Larvitar, Flying Flip, Splattering Sludge, or Magical Swap with either or both of these energy. Flying Flip, Splattering Sludge, and Second Strike can be used with either, as long as you're meeting the stipulations of Counter Energy that you're behind on prizes. And then Magical Swap can only be used with the Counter Energy. So like I said, be careful about your prize cards if you're looking for Magical Swap to finish up the game. That's going to be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and check out the videos over to your right. You just might like them. Visit flipsidegaming.com, use my code CELIO, all caps, for 10% off of your order. It's a really great deal, and check out their products. They have a lot of great stuff, and I write free articles for them weekly. I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.